What's up guys, TSJAwesome 628 here, back again with another F1 2020 My Team Career Mode video, this time for the Mexican Grand Prix, and we've won 7 races in a row in our last 7 races, so let's see if we can make it 8. As I said in the last episode, we're going to start off by upgrading the aerodynamic facilities, so probably our final upgrade that we're going to spend the money to the facilities, and that means that aerodynamics will now be spec 3, and we will now unlock the final stage of upgrades from it. So that's good news. In our activity timeline, we're going to do a podium celebration party and driver promotion filming. We don't have many days between the Mexican Grand Prix, only 3 until it happens, because they're a week apart from the United States Grand Prix, which we just did. Going into this race weekend, it's a track I enjoy. I'm not sure how confident I am here. I think I should be pretty quick compared to the AI. But as we check the weather forecast, it's completely dry, so only one real opportunity left to get rain, and that is at Brazil in the next episode. So we'll see whether we get it there. As I said, I'm sort of discounting Abu Dhabi from really having rain, but I could be proven wrong. So let's get into qualifying, completely dry, and let's see if we can take pole position. First lap in Q1 now then, and I do find that the first sector is particularly strong for me compared to the AI. I'm just not sure if the AI know how to take the first 3 corners that well, and you can gain a lot of time just by taking them normally. I didn't actually take them that well in this part. I mean, I did, I just lost a couple of attempts, probably sort of within the AI. But on this lap I then get held up by Giovinazzi in the final sector. As you see, we have to overtake him on this lap. So it isn't a particularly great lap. It's a 1:11.9, but a not particularly great lap. It's still good enough to get us through to Q2, albeit behind our teammate Daniel Ricciardo by 2.5 tenths, but I am confident we'll be able to gain that back. Sergio Perez third at his home Grand Prix in Q1. We'll see if he can continue that pace in the next couple of sessions, because if so, the home crowd for him will be very happy. Leclerc down in 14th in the Ferrari, and Lance Stroll down in 13th in the Racing Point. He's still better than his teammate Giovinazzi, who failed to make it out of the session, and Racing Point have really been struggling in this second half of the season. George Russell is the person that makes it through as a result, with his teammate Grosjean actually down in 21st, so Russell really outperforming the Haas here. Nick de Vries actually outqualified Grosjean, so Williams and will not both be on the back row, and Magnus and Latifi also won that time out from theirs, but Racing Point really capitulated in this second half of the season. They were looking odds on for a 3rd place finish, but they've just not really had any pace, and it hasn't helped that pretty much all their points have come from Stroll this year, and Giovinazzi has not offered as much as the team would have hoped when they signed him at the start of the season to replace the outgoing Perez to Renault. Into Q2 now, and hopefully this time we can settle up without getting held up too much. But as you see, there are a couple cars ahead of us, and I am worried that we may catch them in the stuff as they have just come out of the pits, so I don't want to be catching them. As you see, they're already going to go side by side with each other, and I'm just not exactly happy. And we did have to overtake the Red Bull of Alex Albon just behind us, and it wasn't the greatest lap of 1:11.3, still better than we set in the last session, but I know I can go quicker. Ricciardo still made it through on the medium tyres as well, so again going for the alternate strategy. So it's just something that Ricciardo does, so I've just learned to accept he's going to do it at pretty much every race. He just knows the car is the pace. Both Mercedes and both Red Bulls and both McLarens also making it through, so both McLarens in their fight against AlphaTauri and Renault looking strong, but Perez still looking pretty strong in 6th this time, and only a 10th off 3rd. So it looks very close in the battle for third, with Charles Leclerc, the final person making it through to the session. So Sebastian Vettel's teammate misses out, very close to his teammate, but couldn't quite squeeze through. Gasly also misses out on AlphaTauri, so no AlphaTauris in Q3, and no racing points in Q3 as Stroll was 14th. Ocon couldn't match his teammates' heights in 13th, and George Russell was understandably 16th in that, as we weren't expecting him to even be in this session. But as we head into Q3 now, time to try and set the quickest lap possible. There should be less traffic as there are less cars in this session, so we'll see if we can finally set a clean lap as we head down towards the first 3 turns, and we get a good line and a good run through them. Maybe slightly wide on the exit of turn 3, which maybe cost us half a tenth, but still a decent run, and it is a purple sector 1. And as we come towards the end of the lap, it is a good lap, and this is going to be our most representative lap of the week. As we come across the line, it's a 1:10.8, stamping our authority on this session, and quite a bit quicker than Ricciardo. But we do have time for one more lap, so let's see what we can do, and see. I know that we can get a slightly better run through the first 3 corners, as we did lose, as I said, about half a tenth. So we'll see if we can gain that back on this second run and maybe improve by a little bit. And as we head through the first 2 corners, we are going to gain, just under a tenth, between half a tenth and a tenth. And as we head towards the end of the lap, we're actually 2 tenths up. We get a better run through the final corner, and we're going to claim pole position for the Mexican Grand Prix. So, very good news for us in our quest to try and get 8 race victories in a row.
Let's review our top 3 today: Thomas, Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas. With qualifying complete, all that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
So we claim pole position by over a second to Daniel Ricciardo, 1.118. So we really just have more pace than him this weekend, and as soon as we could set clean laps, both of our laps that we set in the session would have been miles quick enough for pole position. Bottas then lines up third in the Mercedes, so he claimed that, and it wasn't actually as close to third as it was in the previous 2 sessions. So Bottas and Leclerc, who set a great lap in 4th, as he only just made it into the session, but manages to line 4th. They both set much quicker laps than the rest. Hamilton will be 5th, and Alex Albon outperforms his teammate, so that's a shock, as he will line up 6th with the 2 McLarens of Sainz and Norris 7th and 8th, and Verstappen and Perez will both be very disappointed with their Q3 performances, as Verstappen would at least be expecting to be ahead of his team, and Perez was looking very strong in the previous 2 sessions. So we'll see whether they can regain those positions in the race tomorrow. And McLaren's qualifying pace has looked strong over the last few races, but obviously in USA they only got 2 points, so we'll see if they can hold on to these positions.
You must be thrilled. Are you feeling confident that you can take your qualifying pace into the race?
I mean, there isn't really a reason why not. I have no doubt that we will get at least podium in the next race, because we're quite quick. Well, there's obviously going to be a buzz at this race. It's Perez's home Grand Prix. They've been working hard, they're on good form, and Perez is looking strong.
For today's exciting race, Thomas lines up on pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Albon, Carlos Sainz, and Verstappen, Perez, Gasly, Ocon, and Lance Stroll. Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty. Fiat, George Russell, and Magnussen. Latifi, Norris, Antonio Giovinazzi, and Roman Grosjean. Vettel, Aitken, De Vries, and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid.
So, a few grid penalties, most notably our teammate Daniel Ricciardo for this race. So, considering how much quicker we were already in qualifying, our teammate taking a penalty could give us a good opportunity to dominate this race and we're going to have lights out and away we go, and we are going to pull away off the start, getting a good start, and maybe, I mean, we're thinking quite early, it's already lap 1, but maybe we can try and push as hard to lap as many cars as possible, because it doesn't seem like our teammate's going to be there to stop us. If he gets held up in traffic, we could lap him, but I do think he'll be able to make his way through the traffic. Sainz is up to P3, so another good start for the McLaren, and we'll see whether he can maybe claim another podium, as he did claim a podium in Japan from this position. We set the fastest lap at the end of lap 1, and the gap to Bottas is 1.7 and the gap to Sainz is 3.2, so already gaining quite a bit of time, and at the end of lap 2 the gap to Bottas is already 4.5 seconds, and he does pull a bit back in the final corner, actually quite a lot of time in the final corner, but that doesn't matter, as we're still going to pull away over the next few laps. Now on board with Charles Leclerc, and he's going to go for a move on Lance Stroll up the inside, but Lance Stroll will try and defend. Charles Leclerc's going to go round the outside through the stadium section, and he'll have the inside line for the final corner, and he's going to dive up the inside, but Stroll will probably get a slightly better exit, and Stroll will keep ahead. But now there's going to be a massive pile of cars that all want to try and make this move here, and Leclerc is going to try and overtake Stroll. Meanwhile, behind, Haas and Alfa Romeo are going to make it 3 wide, and Leclerc dives up the inside, so he turns defence into attack here, and Stroll probably thought he was safe, but Leclerc is going to make the move, and now it looks like Russell, Latifi and Magnussen are going to try and go 3 wide. But as they head into the next corner, it looks like Magnussen's backed out, but Russell and Latifi will keep it side by side, so Leclerc finishes off the move on Stroll. With the inside line, Stroll still trying to fight back, but Leclerc has the position, and it looks like Russell's the inside line for his battle with Latifi. Obviously the former teammates, both used to be at Williams, both switched teams this year, but Russell's going to try and keep it round the outside with this favourable line through the S section, and Russell looks to have got the move, and now Latifi's going to be under pressure from his current teammate Kevin Magnussen now. Magnussen's going to try and go for a move up into the next corner, as we see Ricciardo overtake one of the Williams cars, I think of Nick de Vries, and now Magnussen and Latifi are going to keep it side by side through the stadium section, and Magnussen's going to have the inside line as they head into the final corner, but Latifi will fight back, and he's not done defending this position, and they're going to go side by side on the main straight. And what a battle between these two teammates we're currently getting, as they're allowing the cars ahead to pull away, as Grosjean's now going to go for a move on Latifi, and Norris is going to squeeze him in on the outside, and Latifi's lost more positions in this race, as now Norris and Grosjean are going to go side by side into turn 1, and Grosjean looks to try and defend from Norris. Norris is going to keep it side by side as they head down this back straight, and Norris is going to dive up the inside. Grosjean will try and defend if he can, but Norris now will have the outside line. Grosjean looks to have probably a slightly better line, but Norris is going to get better traction, and he's going to keep it up the inside into the S section. He's going to try and squeeze Grosjean out, but Grosjean will not allow himself to be squeezed out, and he's going to gain the position, and he's going to keep ahead. So Latifi lost a lot of positions there. I think he lost 4 overall in that, and as they head into the stadium section, the battle is finally finished for this lap, as we set another fastest lap in this race. Moving onwards, and we're pulling away from Bottas. Gap is now 6.7 seconds, and it's now 9.2 seconds at the end of lap 4, so pulling away at about 2 seconds a lap, and I think if we maintain 2 seconds a lap for the rest of the race, we can lap the field. Just about. I think we may need slightly more than 2 seconds, but now on board with our teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and he's still trying to fight his way through the field, and up next for him is Antonio Giovinazzi, and he's going to go up the inside of Antonio Giovinazzi into turn 1, and he successfully makes the move through the first turn, and Giovinazzi will fight back though, but Ricciardo just has too much pace on the straights, and As we head towards the end of lap 5, the gap to Bottas is 11.5 seconds. So we are checking out of this Grand Prix, and we're doing enough to try and win the race comfortably, maybe even lap field. I do think Ricciardo still has a great chance of finishing at least on the podium, based on the pace in the car. And now he's going to try and overtake Nicholas Latifi into turn 1. So if he continues to make a move a lap, then he'll definitely do it, as there are 36 laps in this Grand Prix in total. So I do not expect him to continue the pace of making a move a lap, but especially on the alternate strategy where he can probably get an overcut on quite a few cars. I do think he'll be still in a good chance in this race, so we do need to watch out for his pace. As now on board with Lewis Hamilton as he's trying to make a move on Carlos Sainz. This is for the podium position, he's going to go around the outside. Slightly unorthodox pace to try it into turn 4. And then 5, most of the time the moves will be done into turn 1. But Hamilton looks to have gone down the inside of Sainz, but Sainz will fight back with a much better exit, a much better traction, and he'll have the inside line for the first part of the S section. And Hamilton's going to try and keep around the outside, but Sainz just squeezes him out and keeps the position, and he really wants to hold on to that podium as he still wants another big point score. At the end of lap 6, gap to Bottas is 14.2 seconds, so we're going to continue trying to extend the gap in this race. We're going to pit on lap 10, so we've still got 3 more laps in this stint, and if we can continue to gain 2 seconds a lap, it'll be good. Now on board with a battle of the Red Bulls, and Verstappen obviously started behind Albon, and he really wants to get the position back as he is the quicker driver in this race, and has been this season. And Verstappen is going to try and make light work of Albon, and I'm surprised Albon just hasn't let him go, as Verstappen gets past, Albon's now going to be under pressure from Sergio Perez here, and the Mexican's going to go up the inside into turn 4, and he's going to try and keep it side by side with Albon, and Albon could lose another position rather than to just his teammate. And the home crowd will be willing Perez on here as he's going to try and keep it around the outside with better traction out the corner, and he's going to send it up the inside into the S section. And there's a bit of contact, and Perez looks to have got the position, and now Alex Albon is going to fall back into the clutches of the 2 AlphaTauri cars, and Albon looks to be overtaken here by Pierre Gasly, and Pierre Gasly is going to try and go up the inside, but this will turn to the outside line through the rest of the stadium section. Albon looks to have managed to successfully defend it as they head into the final corner. We wait to see if he's still in DRS range of the cars ahead, as the 2 AlphaTauris could really be trying to pressurise him. But it looks like they're going to have a squabble within themselves, as Fiat's going to look to pass Gasly into turn 1. But they've got so much straight line speed, and they're both going to go for a move on Alex Albon here into turn 1. And Fiat's also going to go for a move on Pierre Gasly up the inside, so Fiat looks to gain 2 positions in this race. And Albon's lost 4 on this last lap, so Albon's just been going backwards here, and Albon could lose another here with Charles Leclerc's pressurising him, and Charles Leclerc's going to go around the outside of turn 4. Albon locks up, and that's not going to help his cause, as Leclerc's going to keep it side by side through the next section, and Leclerc's going to go up the inside, and it looks like Leclerc's going to be able to get the move done. Albon does get better traction, but Leclerc looks to have got the move done, and Albon lost 5 positions in that last lap, where he could have just lost 1 had he just let Verstappen through. But he wanted to defend against his teammate, and it's cost him quite dearly in this race, as now he's running. I'm not even sure he's running in the points anymore in this race. But as we move onwards towards the end of lap 8, the gap to Bottas is 19.2 seconds. So we're doing it at more than 2 seconds a lap, and that's very good news for us. And if we continue at this pace, we're on course to lap him. As we move forward in this Grand Prix, we're now on board with Daniel Ricciardo, who's looking to have a move on Lando Norris in this Grand Prix. In real life, these two are teammates, but in the game they're not, and Ricciardo has a much quicker car in this game, and he's also going to go up the inside of Romain Grosjean here, and he's going to gain 2 positions for the price of 1, and Ricciardo just moves himself up in this Grand Prix, and now Norris and Grosjean are going to go side by side here, and Norris is going to try and go around the outside as Grosjean locks up to try and defend his position. Norris is going to try and force his way out the inside, but Grosjean is still keeping it side by side, and we've seen quite a lot of battles through this section. so far this race. It's been quite an interesting one down the field in the midfield, even if we've been cruising out in front. But Norris looks to have gained the position on Romain Grosjean round the outside through the S section. Norris moves himself up a position in this race, as Giovinazzi and Vettel are still quite far down, and you'd expect them to be making the moves on those cars very shortly as well. As we're finally going to head on to lap 10, so it will be off our pit stop lap. It's been a very long first stint in terms of the amount of action down the field, but for us it's been cruise control, just trying to pull away stint, and the gap is 23.5 seconds as we head into the pits. So we've done more than we need to, as over 10 laps. Theoretically we need to gain 20 seconds for it to be at 2 seconds a lap, and we've done more than that. We've gained 24, so an extra 4 seconds on top of that as we come into the pits, and hopefully we'll get a good pit stop by the crew, and it's a 2.1, and I'll take that. It should bring us out back in the lead of this Grand Prix ahead of Valtteri Bottas, and indeed it does, as he's only crossing the finish line now. So we have kept the lead of this Grand Prix, and we won't have any traffic to deal with. And now on these pressure mediums, it's about trying to take out as much time as possible from the cars behind us. A couple of them pit, and the gap to Bottas is now 6 seconds, so we're 6 seconds plus a pit stop ahead of him. We've gained 2 seconds on this last lap, as we had done on previous laps. So as Bottas will probably come into the pits at the end of this lap, yeah, indeed he does. We have continued the trend of gaining 2 seconds a lap on him. Now on board with Max Verstappen, who's trying to overtake Carlos Sainz in this race, and Sainz has gone for the mediums in his second stint, and I'm not sure that's the correct call here. I know we've done it, but we're going to go for the softs in the final stint. I'm just not sure the AI think that way, and I'm not sure that I think Sainz is probably going to go for 2 sets of mediums now, and I'm not sure this is the best strategy from McLaren, and he's already going to lose a position to Max Verstappen in this race. He's been overcut by Lewis Hamilton, who's also ahead of him, and I think Esteban Ocon is going to overcut him as well. So Sainz may have lost 3 positions from this strategy and still won't be on quicker tyres. So he's still going to struggle in this stint. He probably will be slightly better in the final stint. But as we move onwards, we're now on board with Sergio Perez, who's trying to overtake the Williams car here, as he just goes up the inside and takes the position, and now Esteban Ocon's going to try and do the same on Nicholas Latifi, a bit further up the road though, and Ocon dives up the inside through the stadium section. Ocon has stopped in this race now, and Ocon has come out in a net podium position here, just behind me and Bottas, so he's done a very good overcut in this race, and Ocon's got past the traffic. And now further back we're going to look at Hamilton, who's trying to defend from Max Verstappen here. Verstappen quick on his fresh tyres. Both of these guys do have fresh tyres, but I think Verstappen has got his warmed up slightly quicker, and Verstappen's going to go for it up the inside of turn 1, and he's going to get the better run through the first 2 corners. Now Carlos Sainz is just behind them here, and Sainz is looking to pick up any scraps, and they're going to go 3 wide, but Verstappen will box Hamilton in, and it looks like Hamilton's also going to lose the position to Carlos Sainz here, and that's not what he needed, as Sainz will be on slower tyres, and that will probably allow Verstappen to get away in this race. As we head on to lap 14, the gap to Ricciardo, who is now in second, is 30 seconds. Obviously he hasn't stopped yet, whereas all the other drivers in this race have, so I think he was the only driver on the grid that started on the mediums. Therefore he will continue to push to try and overtake the rest of the cars that he needs to, but on board with the racing point of Lance Stroll, I believe, who's trying to go down the inside of Alex Albon, and he successfully does so. And Alex Albon's really struggling in this phase of the race, as he's just been overtaken by a bunch of cars, and now Stroll as well. And now on board with the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly, who's trying to overtake Charles Leclerc into turn 1, and he manages to do so. And Leclerc will slightly try and fight back, but he doesn't have the same pace through the corner as Gasly does, and Gasly moves himself up a position in this race. Now on board with the Alfa Romeo of Nicholas Latifi, who's trying to overtake the Haas car of George Russell in this race, and he successfully does so. So Latifi's regained one of the positions he lost during that early phase in the race. Now on to lap 15, and with 32 seconds out of Ricciardo, he's being caught by Bottas, so Bottas is quick on those fresh tyres, but Ricciardo will have the advantage towards the end of the race, and it could be pretty close between those two. I'm expecting that the top three will be the car in top three, but not sure what order. Now on board with Lewis Hamilton, who's trying to re-overtake Carlos Sainz, and he's going to successfully do so round the outside into turn 1, and he just has better pace in this race, and Sainz is now going to have to look behind him to try and defend what he can. Alex Albon really struggling in this race, and now Kevin Magnussen is going to try and overtake him into turn 1, and he should not be being overtaken by an Alfa Romeo. So maybe he picked up damage somewhere, I don't know, but Magnussen overtakes him on a softer combat of tyres, maybe that's just it, but Albon can't seem to find any pace in this race. Now back on board with us, the gap to Ricciardo is 33.5 seconds, and he is probably going to be coming into the pits at the end of this lap for his first pit stop. On board now with the Alpha Tauris, and Pierre Gasly is looking to try and overtake his teammate Danny Kvyat. Pierre Gasly is on softs, whereas Kvyat's on mediums, so Gasly will have the better tyres and will regain the position. Now on board with Sergio Perez, who's trying to overtake Carlos Sainz, and Carlos Sainz is also dropping backwards, so maybe it's just a medium tyre, it's just a bad tyre to be on at this stage in the Grand Prix. I'm not really struggling on it, but it seems that most of the other drivers that are on it are, and Albon, Kvyat and Sainz are all losing positions in this race. And Perez is the next driver to overtake Carlos Sainz and demote him the position. Now on board with the Racing Point of Lance Stroll, who's trying to overtake Charles Leclerc, and he's going to do so up the inside, and it seems that Ricciardo has just come out of the pits behind them, and now as they head through the first few corners, Leclerc doesn't get a great run. It looks like Ricciardo may be able to challenge Leclerc straight away out the pits, and that's good news for Ricciardo to be able to regain position so quickly, as he does lock up, but he still makes the move on Leclerc. And as we head on to the end of lap 16, the gap to Bottas 37.5 seconds, so our pace is starting to slow down. We're not quite getting 2 seconds a lap. I think that's because we're on mediums and he's on softs, so he does have a way to try and minimise the pain, but I think in the final stint will be much quicker as well, as now Ricciardo's going to overtake Lance Stroll on this same lap, but round the outside through the stadium section, and Ricciardo's now inside the top 10 just about, and he looks set to be at least in the podium positions by the end of this race. Back up with us, the gap to Bottas is just over 39 seconds, so it's still steadily increasing, and we're going to lap our first couple of cars of Aitken and De Vries in the Williams cars as we head through the final sector, the stadium section at Mexico, where all the fans here are mainly here, probably all supporting Sergio Perez, but we're still on course for our 8th victory in a row, and on course to lap at least everybody except for Bottas, and possibly our teammate, depending how he is in this race, and maybe we could lap both of them as well. It will be pretty tight as we head forwards in this race, and now on board with Antonio Giovinazzi, who is being challenged by Nicholas Latifi here, and Latifi's going to overtake him into turn 1, and Giovinazzi's really struggled in this race, and in qualifying as well, pretty much his entire weekend has been struggling. Now he's been overtaken by an Alfa Romeo, a car that he should definitely be quicker than, especially considering his constructor is still challenging for 3rd in the Constructors' Championships, whereas Alfa Romeo hasn't scored a point yet this season. But now on board with our teammate, who's trying to overtake Danny Kvyat in this race, and he's going to challenge up the inside, and it looks like he's got the move done before they even head into turn 1. But now back on board with Sainz and Gasly, and now Sainz is going to lose a position to Pierre Gasly, it seems, and Gasly's going to try and go around the outside of Carlos Sainz, and Gasly looks to have gained the position, and Ricciardo's going to try and be opportunistic and also overtake Carlos Sainz. So Sainz on the mediums really struggling in this stage of the race, and you better hope that McLaren are going to put him on softs in the final stint, because if they pit him for another set of mediums, he'll have roughly the same pace as the cars around him, and having used the mediums in the middle stint will have basically just harmed his race, as we now lap Giovinazzi, who's running in a very lowly 20th position, and now we're going to have Latifi up next too. Isn't that far behind Vettel, and Vettel's another car that hasn't really done much in this race, and we're going to try and lap both of them very shortly. And Latifi is up first, as we do have DRS on the straight. He did pull away slightly out of the final corner. I didn't get the best exit, but he'll let us through into turn 1. Not the most easily, and we do have to compromise line into turn 1, and that could cost us crucial time in our battle. We were trying to lap Bottas, but Vettel will let us through much more simply into the next corner. He's really struggled, and he's still stuck behind Romain Grosjean in this race. But we will also lap Romain Grosjean before we get to the S section, which is good. And that means we're going to have an S section in clear air, and that will help us increase the gap to Bottas. But now on board with our teammate Ricciardo again, and he's already pushing on to Pierre Gasly, and he's well inside the top 10 now. I think he's battling for about P7, and he's going to overtake Pierre Gasly. And up next for him is Sergio Perez, the home favourite, and well, actually he's up to P4 now, as Perez has picked in this race along with Hamilton and Verstappen. So Ricciardo continues to gain positions in this race, and Ocon is going for the overcut again, but I'm not sure it will work this time out, as there's less traffic for the other cars to go into as we do lap another couple cars in this race. George Russell and now Alex Albon. So Albon still running on the edge of the points here, but I think he still has to stop. And some of the cars behind him have already stopped for the final time. And we are going to lap him here as we head into turn 1. And now we're over a minute ahead of the field. And we just set a purple sector 1 on this lap. That wasn't a great lap, but I think it was from the DRS that we got and slipstream from Alex Albon that allowed us to set a purple sector. And we're going to continue gaining. Ricciardo is obviously on soft tyres, so we're probably not going to be gaining that much on him. But now on board with Lewis Hamilton, who's trying to overtake Nicholas Latifi. Nicholas Latifi's gone very long on his second stint, and Hamilton's going to be able to breeze past him in a quicker car, and he's going to move himself up in a position in this race, and I think he's currently in a net P4 just behind Bottas and Ricciardo, as Russell is all the way up in P4 in this race currently, and I believe he's supposed to stop again, otherwise that would be some achievement from the Haas driver. But we're going to come and we're going to lap Valtteri Bottas at the end of lap 25. We will have to stop again though, so we're going to have to make up another just under 20 seconds in the final 10 laps on this stint, but at 2 seconds a lap, which is roughly the pace we've been doing so far this race, I think we can do it. Obviously then comes the challenge of Ricciardo, who also has to stop again, and we probably need to gain another 10 seconds on Ricciardo in this race, so a second a lap, and I'm not sure whether we can do that on our teammate, as Max Verstappen overtakes George Russell in this race. So Verstappen is actually looking quite strong for P4, so Hamilton's in net P5, just behind Verstappen. But we are going to come into the pits for our final stint, and this set of mediums was very warm, so I just don't think the mediums are a good race tyre here. I think the softs are just better. So I know the hards aren't a good race tyre here, but it doesn't look like the mediums are much better, so I think it's just, can you run the softs for as long as possible, because they're just a quicker tyre, and we should have some fun on this stint, as we now have Ricciardo just behind us, but he will gain some time, and then I'll have to pit and probably come up behind Bottas, and we probably need Bottas to hold up for Ricciardo as long as possible, so that we can catch up and try and lap them, because we do have a few other cars to lap before then. I think we're around about P7 at the cars that we're lapping, and we move onwards in this race, and we're on board with Charles Leclerc, who, as we came out of the pits, was trying to overtake Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz still losing position in this race, and for his final stint, McLaren have put him on the hard tyres. I have no idea what strategy Sainz is doing in this race, but he's got no grip on these tyres. He's going to lose a position to both Leclerc and the AlphaTauri Fiat. And why would you do a soft, medium, hard strategy in this race? You could do a soft, medium, soft strategy in this race as I did, and I think McLaren have cost Carlos Sainz big points, and he was running in a podium position before they messed up his strategy. I don't think he had the pace for a podium, but he could have been P5 or P6, and now he may not even score points in this race, as Nicholas Latifi is looking to overtake the Haas car of, I believe, Romain Grosjean in this race, and indeed he's going to overtake Romain Grosjean and move himself off position in this race. Latifi's been slowly gaining the positions back since he lost them, as we're going to now try and lap Pierre Gasly. Turns slightly across us, but it's no harm done, didn't get any damage from it. So we've lapped both Renault cars now, we will when we lap Ocon, and we've lapped both AlphaTauris, I think, as well in this race, as Ocon does finally get out the way as we head towards turn 1, and now we only have 5 of the cars ahead of us, and as we were on board with Pierre Gasly here, he opportunistically overtakes Sergio Perez as he's stuck right with us trying to go side by side. So quite a cheeky move here, as we're now caught up to Lewis Hamilton here, and we're already going to lap him, and now on board with the Racing Point of Antonio Giovinazzi, who's finally going to overtake a car in this race, and he's going to overtake Romain Grosjean into turn 1. But he's quite far back, but he's still going to go for up the inside, and Grosjean locks up, and I think Grosjean may have an issue with his car, as Giovinazzi is now not the lowest car that is into Williams, as we set a blistering fastest lap of a 1:12.5, which is quicker than what I think anyone except for Ricciardo did in qualifying. So our race pace does seem pretty good as we continue on, and we're going to try and lap Max Verstappen. So we're now going to have only 2 other cars of our teammate and Bottas still to lap in this race, with 7 laps to go, and probably just over 10 seconds needed on Bottas and about 5 or 6 seconds needed on Ricciardo to lap them. So it is doable, but it will be close, and we need to maintain a high pace in this race if we do want to achieve it. And as we move onwards to lap 30, Ricciardo is really closing in on Bottas, as we are also gaining quite rapidly on Bottas, and now on board with our teammate, who is looking to try and go for the move on Valtteri Bottas, and he does have a lot more pace than Bottas in this race, and he's going to move himself up to second round the outside into turn 1. So even though he started last, he does look like he's going to be able to recover 2 seconds, but Bottas couldn't really hold him up. But there we are in the background, and we only need to get within about 2 or 3 seconds of them, and they will have to let us pass under blue flag rules. So we aren't that far away from lapping them as we head towards turn 1, and we do see that Ricciardo has overtaken Bottas, where they were going side by side. And as we move on to lap 32, we can see Bottas almost directly ahead of us here, and I think we're in range here to lap him on the next straight, and we're going to head into turn 1, and yes, Bottas will have to let us through here, but he does slightly hold us up, and we do have to cut the inside of the corner there to get past him, because he didn't pull to the side. I'm not sure whether he thought that that was Ricciardo again or something, I don't know, but he didn't seem to really acknowledge that we were trying to lap him in the race. But now it's only our teammate Ricciardo left, and we need to probably gain another 2 seconds on him in the final 4 laps. But on board with the Racing Point of Lance Stroll, and Carlos Sainz's day is just going from bad to worse, and his terrible strategy. So, well, this result is no fault of his own. but he's lost another position to Stroll now, and we're now in DRS range of Daniel Ricciardo, so we should be able to lap him on this lap pretty much, and we're gonna go through the first few turns, and we're gonna go side by side with Ricciardo. He doesn't exactly just let off on the throttle. Maybe it's something to do with the fact that he's programmed to be in second, so he's programmed to try and race us because we're the guy in first. But you don't usually get the fact that the guy in first is lapping the car in second, and we have successfully lapped the entire field. We tried it at Hungary and we tried it at Singapore, but as we keep fast forwarding onto this race, it seems like unless Ricciardo suddenly pulls out some massive pace and manages to unlap himself, that we will have managed to lap the field at our third attempt really at it in Mexico. Obviously, we got a bit of luck in the fact that Ricciardo started from the back, otherwise it probably would have only been Bottas downwards that got lapped. But, well, you need a bit of fortune in this sport, and our 8th race victory in a row is pretty much secured now, and as we're going to head on to the final lap, we've got one last battle, as Lando Norris is trying to overtake Kevin Magnussen in this race, and Lando Norris is going to go down the inside into turn 1 and take the position from Kevin Magnussen, so he's successfully done that, but we are going to be in the final sector now and on our final lap, and celebrations are going off from the stadium section, and we have come around the final corner. We've won our 8th race in a row, and we've lapped the field of the Mexican Grand Prix. I couldn't have asked for a better weekend. Pole position, led every lap, fastest lap, lapped the field. I don't think there's ever been a more dominant weekend in the history of the sport.
Down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One.
I think if it was real life, you'd actually understand it being a difficult decision for driver of the day, because the game obviously gives it Ricciardo thinking he gained 21 positions, what a drive. But then in real life, I think I would probably still get a few votes for lapping the entire field, including my teammate.
But Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today. An incredible performance.
Nothing can challenge the leaders of the Constructors' Championship at this point. But, meanwhile, a strong weekend for Red Bull this time out, and they improved their position in the championship. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
So, we win the race, a lap ahead of Ricciardo. Our fastest lap was 2.2 seconds quicker than his, and no one else got even below the 116s in race trim. We were in the 112s. That's just how dominant we were this weekend. Bottas was third. I can't even tell you the gaps between these drivers because I can't see them because they will say plus 1 lap. So Verstappen 4th, Hamilton 5th, a casual top 5, but Verstappen gaining loads of points on Stroll in this race weekend, and Red Bull gaining loads on Racing Point. Ocon was 6th, Gasly 7th, and Perez 8th. So despite the fact that McLaren got both cars into Q3, Renault and AlphaTauri both gain on McLaren this weekend. Leclerc was then 9th, and Kvyat makes it 2 AlphaTauris in the top 10 with 10th. Stroll just misses out on the points in 11th, and he's trying his best for Racing Point. He's having to try and carry the team on his own, but then to be fair, Verstappen's having to try and carry Red Bull pretty much on his own as well. So it's only really Ferrari that have 2 drivers in the fight this season for their constructor in that battle. Sainz then finished 12th with a dreadful strategy, just ahead of his teammate Lando Norris in 13th, so no points to McLaren this time out. Albon was in 14th, also had a bad strategy and also had no pace. He actually started ahead of Sainz and finished still below him in 14th. Vettel was then 15th, couldn't really get through the traffic after his grid penalty, so a disappointing day out for him. Magnussen was then 16th, Russell 17th, and then Latifi 18th, Giovinazzi 19th, Grosjean 20th, Aitken 21st, and Nick de Vries 22nd and last. But this is probably the first race of the season where every driver has finished the race. There wasn't a single DF, but it's also the first where only one driver completed all 36 laps in this Grand Prix. So they can boast the fact that they've all finished the race, but none of them actually finished the required number of laps. So dominant weekend for us, as our championship lead is 144 points, and then Bottas in third, a further 81 points behind Ricciardo, so Ricciardo is now sealed second. Bottas has actually sealed third as well from Hamilton, who can mathematically be caught by Verstappen in the final two races, but it's very unlikely. Stroll is also now very unlikely to overtake Verstappen, as he's now 26 points behind, and Leclerc will finish 7th, as he's on 93 points. Vettel will probably be able to hold off Norris, as he has a quicker car on his hands, but he's on 66, Norris on 60. Norris is now slowly being caught by Ocon on 56, Perez on 53, Gasly on 52, Fiat on 46, and Giovinazzi on 44. Sainz on 33, Albon on 29, Grosjean on 2, Russell on 1, and Alfa Romeo and Williams car still yet to score. So, in the Constructors, with 370 points ahead of Mercedes, Red Bull actually overtake Racing Point for probably the first time this season, as they're now 11 points ahead of Racing Point with 2 races to go, and Racing Point are probably not going to be able to catch them now, with Racing Point really struggling, and they're only 5 points ahead of Ferrari, and probably looking behind them. Renault have taken a firm grip on the battle for 6th, as they're now 11 points ahead of AlphaTauri, with a brilliant weekend this time out. And AlphaTauri are 5 points ahead of McLaren. McLaren actually looked really strong in the first part of the season, as did Racing Point, so it did look Racing Point would be 3rd and McLaren would be 6th in the battle, but the tables have turned in the second half of the season, and we'll see if either McLaren or Racing Point can recover in the final 2 races. But Haas are then on 3 points, and Alfa Romeo and Williams only have 2 races left to score this season. Williams probably go the entire series without getting any points.
You and your teammate took the top 2 positions today. Have you got the best car out there?
Yes, we definitely have the best car out there. I think that's obvious, considering I lapped the field and Ricciardo came from 22nd to 2nd. So
That's a great thing for the team, isn't it?
yes, it's a great thing for the team, especially considering he'd be starting last because of the grid penalty. So to get up on the podium is a big achievement, and well, everything we've been working towards that for this weekend. I think you're probably talking about the collision with Gasly when he didn't really let us pass when we were trying to lap him as he turned into us. So it wasn't my fault. But looking on to the acclaim levels, and we're really close to Ricciardo in terms of who has more acclaim, and I think that's going to be our aim to the end of the season, is to try and get more acclaim than Daniel Ricciardo. We do meet all our goals, which is 1.76 million bonus, so slightly more than usual. It's changed slightly. I think it's probably just our good performances and our increased team acclaim level that we do get slightly better perks as a team. But quite a long episode, this one, as there was so much action in the race and we managed to lap the entire field. But I doubt we're going to be able to do that again this season. But it is another strong track for me up next. So that will be the end of the episode, and we'll see you guys next time for the Brazilian Grand Prix.